Right. Welcome to this session on Pims application for mobile devices using Flutter as development and Appframe. With us we have Viljus, Gaute and Henrik, who will present how they do mobile application development. But first we have with us Svein Tore, product owner of Pims Completion, which has the team has one app that they are developing. And you could say a few words on your experience.
Hello everyone. Now the app is, we have an app called Pims Field Inspection app. It has been developed this autumn and we feel that the result has been very good. Of course, starting from scratch, really with no experience with Flutter, it has taken some time. Also, we see that developing and doing the publishing takes a bit more time than we are used to. So we sometimes getting a bit impatient, but all in all it has been very good and we see that the end result becomes very good. It's a quite large application. We'll check this dynamic checklists and punch list items and tags, so it's quite a lot of information in there. Yeah. Also, but what we see is becomes very good is the really good and intuitive user interface. And also the experience of Gaute and Henrik and Viljus is that this is easier to make better design and taking more control over the design using Flutter. So that's good. And also we see that being able to take control over the device, the tablet PC, for example, doing QR scanning out in the field, or scanning this NFC, this RFID chip. Also makes this app much more interesting for the future. Yeah. The next step now, which they are working on, and actually this is where we believe that we can gain even more compared to having it in a browser-based, is that to see how to take this offline, because this app will also be able to check out these objects, to go offline, do your work, and then check the work back into the database. Yeah. And they are in the middle of this phase 2 now, so this is really interesting to see what's happening there. Yeah, yeah. Well, we can poke Gaute's head at the end of the session to see how he's solving the offline. And also, of course, this list is also out on Google Play or also on iOS, I think. Yeah. So if people want to test it out, they can do that. It's called Pims Field Application, and we will fix and log in for them. Yeah. Ah, perfect. Good. Okay, then we set it over to Viljus. You are with us?
Yes, hello everyone.
Then your screen is shared now.
All right. So hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about developing Pims applications for mobile devices using Flutter. The focus of this talk is to showcase a mobile developer's workflow using the familiar certification program as an example. You will see a mobile take on its requirements. The key points we are covering today are authentication, how it is done in Flutter, and what does the Flutter team has to offer to help you with that. How do we work with data using the data API, and also what is there to help you. We utilize module class generation, so you can get a automated generation to get a Dart model class from your view, and then you can utilize a few fully typed experienced on your columns as parameters. You will see data binding. How do we bind the data resources to the available views? And finally, we have Flutter widgets. Flutter has a variety of pre-built widgets that you can use, and you will be able to notice some of them, like say material button, list view, or a separated list view. That will come in the example later. I think the key takeaway from this is to notice the differences between what you're used to in Wing Client in web, how do you develop applications there, and what are the differences doing so in on mobile devices. A quick note before going forward. Due to time limitations, we assume that most of the users are familiar with the Getting Started article on Flutter in Docs Omega 365. If you are not, this is a great article to set up your environment and at the end of it, get a demo application to play around with. All of the Flutter related source code is stored in GitHub. And if you have an idea for an app or just want to make a pull request, let's say, you can submit a system access request on my Omega 365. You'll be able then to see the main Flutter Appframe repository on the right here that contains the core packages we offer. We can also see demo application and the certification program applications, as well as existing Pims application source code to poke around. And finally, I'm handing it over to Henrik to talk more about Flutter packages.
Yes, you're live, Henrik.
Yes, so I will talk a little bit about the package server we're hosting and different widgets and packages we have created so far. The host can be found here at flutterpackages.appframe.com on host 4242. This works pretty much the same way as Flutter's package library that can be found at pub.dev. So far, we have created 12 different packages to reduce development time, so it will be easier to get started with new applications. To use the packages in your project, you need to add them to your pubspec.yaml file that is found in the root of your project folder. This works a little bit different if you were to install something from pub.dev. So here you need to define the host name, the host and the name of the package, and whatever version you want to use. One of the packages we have created is the API package. When implemented, it makes it easier to communicate with the API backend for Appframe. The API package is dependent on Dart classes that reflect the API resource you wish to use, so it's recommended that you use the Visual Studio Code extension, Appframe Data API Explorer. It will let you browse through all of the API resources available and generate a Dart class reflecting that resource. And then there's the authentication package. The authentication package is used in all of our applications so far, and let's get quickly started with development. When implemented, it gives your application an authentication state for whether or not you are logged in. The UI is rendered based on the authentication steps, so it should work on whatever solution you decide to use. We have also implemented something called AppServices. It will let you add multiple solutions and other app-specific settings that will be accessible globally in your applications. These are defined in the mobile app service view and are linked to your application bundle ID, which is a unique identifier for your application. And then there's the Filestore package. It will provide you a helper class to make it easier to deal with uploading and downloading of and saving files locally on your device. And that's just to mention a few. But there are also the filter package that was created during the development of the field inspection application and let you make more advanced filter searches for data resources. And then there's the formatting package that handles all formatting of values based on the user session. I recommend that once you get started with Flutter to browse around and test out the different widgets that we have created. Next up now is Gaute, who's going to do a live demonstration.
Yeah, so let me just get my screen up here. So So I will be showing how to create a simple register in Flutter. I will create one of the registers from the Appframe certification program. So first off, I will show how we create data sources. So I will use one of the extension that we have for VS Code, and I will find the view that I need and just click on it. This will create a model class for me that will reflect the properties of this data source. So here you will see all the columns, and there will also be some functions that you can use, for example, a current row that you're familiar with from Appframe. So I will just rename this for now. Like so. And this will also be saved to the models folder in core. And I will also just rename it. And once you have created a model file or model class for your data source, you need to implement the data source in the app. To do this, we use a provider. This will make sure that the data source is available throughout the application. And to do that, use this code block here. So I just need to import these classes. So what this does is it creates a data resource with this model file, model class that is available for the provider. And once it's created, it will return an instance of the object, the data source object. And we also need to specify some properties for the data source. So for example, which HTTP client to use, the name of the view, which fields, and there is also page size, and you can also specify the unique table name if when doing updates. So that's added. We can get started on the orders registers. So everything in Flutter is using widgets. For this one, I will use a stateless widget, since it will only be rendering data. I don't need any logic in this register. And all widgets needs a build function, which will describe how the UI will look like. But before I build, I need my data resource, and this I can retrieve from the provider. Like so, I can also specify resource. And once I've gotten the data resource, I can also specify, for example, the sort order. So here I want the order ID in once I have the data resource, I can return it in a, the register is going to take up the entire screen here. So I want to use a scaffold, which can be used to create a default template in material design that gives me access to, for example, an app bar at the top here, which gives me a title. I get access to a body, and I will also get access to other widgets that can be used, for example, a drawer. So I will start by creating the app bar. That title. And then I also want a leading icon. That will make sure that the user can get back to the home page. So in this application here, we use a navigator to keep track of which views you are currently on, and then you can use these functions here, push and pop, to either push in a new widget or pop an existing one. Like so. And I will also quickly make code available again so that the button on the screen actually does something. So I also need to specify a root ID that can be used. So, like so. And just put that on. Oh. Wouldn't be a live demo without some issues. Okay. So the issue was that I had just copied over it from an example, and the package name was incorrect. So if I use the correct package name, it should, if I restart the app. Yeah, so now when I click this button, yeah, I've forgotten to add it to the root handler. I also use the correct package name here. Oh. Yeah, now it picked it up. So there has been some issues lately with the Dart analyzer correctly picking up new classes and also from other packages. So, now that we have that in there, we can try again. Yeah, now you can see that we got into the correct view and we click. When we click this one, we get back to the home page. So now we can start on the body, which should be just a list of the orders. We will use a stream builder. And all data resources that use this object here, this class, will have a property called paged item stream. This will give the stream builder the rows. It will also automatically refresh the data resource when the page is first loaded. And it will also, when you get to the end, it will retrieve the next page. And this builder expects a widget in return. So for this stream, I need to make sure that the data is actually loaded before I return the list. So I will ask for the connection state on the stream, and there will be these cases here. So the default behavior should be that we return just an empty container. And if we're waiting, so this is when the data resource is loading. We can return a row. To make sure that the items should be centered on the horizontal plane. It should return a circular progress indicator. So just a spinner indicating that the data is loading. And for these two, I want to return the actual items. So this is when the data is loaded, or when the data resource is finished loading but is still trying to insert the rows to the stream. So here I just specify that if the total length is 0, we should display that no records were found. Otherwise, we should return a refresh indicator. This will give us access to a widget that allows the user to pull to refresh the list. And on refresh, we want to refresh the data resource. And the actual list will be a separated list. Just fill out these required properties. So and for the separator builder, I just want to return a divider. There will just be a horizontal line dividing the items. And for the filter, for now, I can just return a text. Just check that I haven't forgotten anything. Oh, yeah. So when this stream or when this list view has access to these items, they are in a something called future in Flutter, which means that the item might not be there. So I will just replace it with this one, and then I will create this widget, and I can explain it a bit more there. So like so, and so order. Okay, so now this register for each item, it will use this widget right here and use this build function to build the UI for each item. And it will send in the row and the parent data source. And those are set here in the constructor to these final values or variables. And here I need to return a future builder because the items will not exist at the start, but they will exist in the future. So future will be the row. And then I have a builder. The same applies for this one, that we can use the connection state to or to know if the data is currently being loaded or if it's completed loading. So here as well, I just return a circular progress indicator if the data is currently loading. And when the data is loaded, we will return a list tile. So when the data comes from the snapshot, it's got type dynamic because it can be anything, but I know that for a fact that it will only be of the type of the model. So I will cast it over as this type, and then I will get access to all its properties and functions. So if we do so. So I just need to import the file. Could be. No. So again, it was the wrong import. No. So here we send in the current row and the parent data resource. And then I can reload the app. I will load, and then it will display all the rows. And then so. And this. Yeah. So for this example, I haven't completed the rest, but so on tap on these list tiles, it would be natural to push the navigator into the order details page, and then send along the arguments needed to render it. Okay, we refresh again. It would look like this, and this is one of the uses of one of the packages that we have, Appframe formatting. We can send in the mask that you're used to in at least web Appframe. And I will also show how we have used stored procedures. So if you want access to a stored procedure only once in the application, it is possible to only create the object where it's needed. But if you want access to stored procedures from other places as well, it would be a good idea to create a class that extends the proc resource. Create the resource name, and you will also need this, which just sends the parameters from the constructor into the proc resource constructor. And then when you add them to the provider, it works similar to data resources, where you specify the type, which will be the class that you just created. And then you also specify the HTTP client and the name. Once you've done this, you can retrieve the data resources similarly to how it's done here. And I can also show an example. So for this one, so here I will get the customer name based on the employee ID, and I will get the proc by using provider and then specifying the type, and then I will be able to execute it and send in parameters, and then I get a response. And right here, I take the response, get the name, and apply it to the text editing controller. So, yeah. But as you can see here, so this will be the required code to execute this procedure. You could skip the try catch, but it will throw an exception if there is an exception. I also made sure that the response correctly contained the name. So there is a bit more code to write when you write the Appframe application in Flutter. But once you get a hang of it, it's not that different. So for the Appframe certification program, I've created the entire app in Flutter and pushed it to GitHub. So the main project will contain a template project that anyone can pick up and start code in. But there will also be a folder called solution example, which will contain another project containing all the completed widgets and also contain the data resources and store procedures. And I think that was that for me.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I can see that your demo gods nuked my main camera. So swapped over to the backup camera, as you can see. Thank you, Gaute, Henrik and Viljus as well. Good demo to show how you're doing the development of Flutter. It's not like as easy as web development or WinForms development. It's more bits and pieces here and there. But as you said, as you get the hang of it, it goes quite fast. We see the progress in the completion application that it's getting there. So that's good. Okay, thank you. And the next session is 145 case study in total, so we'll see you then. Thank you for joining, and see you later. Bye-bye.